Welcome to Follow South Jersey's Follow Salem podcast about the people, places, and all things good in Salem, New Jersey. Today we're talking with Saida Carter, principal of the John Fenwick Academy here in Salem and pastor of Deliverance Worship Center in Glassboro. Join us as we talk about Saida's journey to becoming a teacher and administrator, the state of education in Salem, and the work that she does through her ministry. Hi, welcome to Follow Salem podcast. I'm Dean Johnson, editor-in-chief of Follow South Jersey, and today we have with us Saida Carter. Saida is the principal of the John Fenwick Academy Elementary School, and she's also a pastor at the Deliverance Worship Center in Glassboro. Hi, Saida.
Hi, how are you? And it's Saida.
Saida. What did I say?
Sanita.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Saida. I
Yes.
will make sure.
Yes.
I will do that.
No problem.
And I appreciate you correcting me.
Yes.
So how are you today? Good?
I'm doing well.
So, Saida, I want you to tell us how you became a South Jersey icon. Things I've heard that you're doing are some amazing things. I know you were born and raised in Newark,
Yes.
New Jersey, up north.
Yes.
So how did you get to be down here?
Okay, so I'm going to try to make it real short. The reason how I got to Salem is I got married.
Okay.
But I went to school in Trenton. It was called Trenton State at the time.
Right.
And there at the time, I met my first husband in Trenton because a mutual friend, had a concert. He's from Glassboro, New Jersey. So the colleges got together and did like a musical.
Okay.
And I was able to meet my then husband at that time.
Right.
And he lived in Salem. I
Okay.
never knew Salem existed. So as we dated, we got engaged and got married. So I'm here in Salem from Newark, New Jersey to Salem. I'm like, what in the world am I? Where am I?
A big difference.
And
when was
huge
this?
difference.
How long ago was that?
This was in 1991.
Okay.
1991, before I had my children and everything. So I was here from 91, 91 was the spring of 91 when I came through here. And then we raised two daughters here to a certain age, and then it didn't work out too well. But while I was, my children were 5 and 3, I already had my degree from College of New Jersey, but I did not have a teaching certificate.
Okay.
So I allotted to become a substitute.
What was your degree in?
English.
English
BA
teacher
in
here
English,
as well.
yes.
All right. There
And then I pursued my master's later on in school leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am going to substitute. And I started to go into the system as a substitute teacher.
Right.
And as I began to show my face around, the teachers became familiar with me, and they requested I come in their classrooms. And in between that, I was able to gain another side job, which is volunteering work, is substituting, not substituting, but also volunteering for girls basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So Miss Frederick, her name was Patricia Frederick. I joined her team as a volunteer basketball coach, and I started to volunteer that, and then I got into a paraprofessional when my marriage didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
I became a paraprofessional, went to take my teacher's exam. The principal at the time hired me at the middle school as a
Right.
teacher, and I was a paraprofessional at the John Fenwick School, where now I'm the principal.
Right.
But I was there at the middle school, and I taught English 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then vice principal there, and now I'm principal at the Fenwick Academy. So that's how.
So was that a big culture shock for you from going for the busy Newark
Absolutely.
lifestyle to the
Absolutely.
quieter Salem?
Yes, I couldn't make the adjustment because in Newark I didn't have to have a car. I could travel with bus and train wherever I wanted to go to New York, anywhere. Public transportation was key. Even when I went to school in Trenton, at the time I could take the New Jersey Transit back and forth to Newark, so I didn't need a vehicle. But when I got here, the bus had a schedule. They stopped running at 6 p.m. I'm like,
Right.
what just happened?
Right.
Where am I?
Yeah.
And it doesn't take you everywhere.
Right.
So it was a culture shock. It was more. I always said it was more bugs than people here.
Right.
And I heard a lot of bugs, but I didn't see too many people. But it was a culture shock, yes, for sure, for sure.
So your degree was in English.
Mm-hmm.
What did you want to do with an English degree?
Well, my mentor at the time, I started off as a computer science major. And I really didn't want to do it, but I thought that's where the money was. Because somebody told me computer science was money. So I tried it and it didn't work out. And my mentor said, Saida, what is it that you really want to do? I said, I want to teach. She said, well, let's go into teaching. So we took some courses, and that was the quickest route for me to go out and go the alternate route, because I have more credits in English than I did with early childhood. So she told me, let's do the alternate route. And fortunately, Richard Rao, he was the superintendent at the time, he encouraged me to do that as well. because he saw me substituting in the school. He said,
Right.
why don't you just go for your alternative route? So Salem invested in me in going that way, and here I am.
Why education? Was there something in your past that said, "Hey, I want," because it's a service industry, it's a give back industry. I mean, you have to give a lot of your time beyond your contractual time.
Sure.
And obviously, and we'll talk about your ministry in a little bit. But that you still have that something in you. Was it a moment? Was it a person? What inspired that?
Longevity. So Newark, New Jersey, I was born and raised with my grandparents. My mother was unable to raise me, so there I raised my grandparents. My grandmother died when I was 9. My grandfather died when I was 18. So between 9 and 18, I was left there pretty much without a mother figure. So when I went to school, the teachers became that mother figure for me. One teacher was able to tell me that I was using my grandfather's deodorant. This the guy down the street, Right Guard, the spray. I don't know if you knew it, and it burned, but I didn't know I was not supposed to use it. And they smelled it, and she asked me, "What kind of deodorant are you using?" I said, "Right Guard," and I thought it was okay. Like this was in the house. She said, "No, ladies not supposed to use that." So they took me under their arm. I was a perfect attendance student. I came to school every day. I was very talkative, but they said I was intelligent. So throughout school, my middle school age, the vice principal, the teachers took me in. And then when I went to high school, that was pivotal for me because that's when my grandfather passed. He died a month before I graduated from high school. I wasn't going to the prom. I didn't want to be involved in anything. But I did receive a full academic scholarship because I ranked 3 in my class.
Okay.
So education was a push from my grandparents. They wanted me to continue to do well, do well, do well. So I went. In my junior year, they told me that I was going to have receive a full academic scholarship to Trenton State as one of the scholars, distinguished scholars. Is as room and board and tuition and fees. So I had that way. So when he passed at 18, now I had to go to college. So my homeroom teacher, my English teacher, they got together, prepared me for my prom. They gave me all I needed to go to college. I didn't know I needed a care package. I'd never gone to college before.
Right.
So they were inspirational. So with that in mind, I always wanted to do what was done to me. I felt that burden. I felt the hurt that came with it. So I said, they did all that for me. I said, you know what? I probably want to be that to somebody else. I don't want kids to feel the way I felt. So that's probably where my passion comes from.
Pay it forward type of thing. They
Absolutely.
did it for you,
And that's
you're doing
what
it for the next, and hopefully the ones you're doing it for.
Absolutely. And I told myself, and that's probably why I'm still in it so long. I take it as a ministry. It's part of my ministry.
Yeah, I was going to say this for later, but let's talk a little bit about your ministry because I have a question about. Well, let's first of all tell us about your ministry. It's Deliverance Worship Center. When did you start it? Did you start it, or did you walk into it?
No, I started it because it was a call. It's an urge that the Lord spoke to me and just said, it's time to go forth and pastor. So I started in 2012 at a hotel. Just started from scratch, no building, no legacy, no grandfather.
Just rented out a room.
Just rented out a room and grew
invited
from there.
People.
Invited some folks. So we started off with 6 folks, and 5 belonged to my family. So 6 that day, and then it started to grow. Then at that time, we had only standing room in that hotel room, and then we were able to rent some space in Deptford, and we were in Deptford at the time.
Right.
And then we grew for about 4 years, and then we went to a building, and we stayed there for 7 years since the pandemic, and then the rent had gone up. And since it was in a commercial building, the rent was through the roof, too much.
Right.
So we had to find some other space that we can share with another church so we can do that, and that's where we are now.
Okay.
But the call is giving back, helping, mostly help seniors. During the pandemic, my husband, now at this time, during the pandemic, Pastor Sunita was probably she was inspirational as getting food bank food to families during the pandemic. So I would come here to Salem and get my truck full of food, and we would take it in Gloucester County and Deptford areas to the low-income housing and just have the families come out and just get food. Because they couldn't get out, the food was scarce at the time.
Right.
Money was not coming, people not working.
Right.
So we were able to, and that helped the ministry as well. We fed families. We went to the senior citizens building, and because of them, the ministry expanded.
And
so
this
we got
was in Deptford?
It was in Deptford.
Right.
Deptford and Woodbury.
Okay.
The senior citizens were Woodbury, but the residents were in Deptford.
Okay.
So we went around there.
What's your congregation size?
We fluctuate between 35 and 40.
Okay. Very good.
That's including children.
That includes children.
Yes.
Which are good because you want intergenerational.
Exactly.
All right. So how do you, I don't know, I guess, go between the roles of minister and public school educator. Is there a divide there, or somehow is that meshed into one?
Well, the only way it meshes into one, because I look at them both as being ministry by title. That's something I'm called to do. But I don't mix the two. I'm not a pastor in the school. I'm an administrator.
Right.
I'm a principal. So I govern myself accordingly. I don't mix the two. I don't try to recruit. I don't do any of that. I do celebrate students because I have a past of a legacy of all students I have now. The former students I have their children. So what I do is I bring light. Every February, I do a Black History Month celebration. And what I've done there is I celebrate former students of mine and celebrate them, say, of their accomplishments. So I spend my money, awards, entertainment,
Right.
gifts, and just blast them so that the next generation can see that there is something good coming out of Salem. Those that have different businesses, those that have aspired to become doctors. Matter of fact, my daughter she went through all three schools, and she's a pharmacist. She's a doctor. So, there's something good come out of Salem. Not only that, then we have some entrepreneurs, Angela Harold. We have some other ones, Kendra Fletcher. We have a young lady that has she has a not registered nurse, but she's a LPN, not LPN, she's a nurse practitioner. She went through the schools with my daughter as well. So I'm just giving back to the kids. One that I coach for basketball also graduated. She has a restaurant downtown, Nellie's. So just giving back to the kids and let them know, I see your work.
Right.
I see what you've done. I want to praise them. So that's what I do.
So you see that as part of your ministry, even though it's not overtly Christian.
Right. I don't know. I don't even put that title on it because I just figure that we're all God's children. It doesn't matter who they are, what they've done, where they've been. Celebrating everyone and their differences, but yet bringing a group together. I think a community, if we bring ourselves together as a community, we can do much more. I think sometimes we isolate ourselves because that's what politics or politicians tell us we should do, divide. We're not a divided people. We divide ourselves.
Interesting. You started a program called Teenage Girls in Transition.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, that was old. I was a teacher, 7th and 8th grade teacher, and at this time, oh my goodness, we had different administrators at the building, and the girls at the time had a problem with fighting. They were very aggressive. They were fighting each other, and most of the time they were fighting because somebody took their boyfriend, the teenage girl thing. Yeah. So what I've done with
daughters, so.
yeah, right. So and it became a great, like they would literally fight while I'm trying to teach class. So I said, okay, they don't value themselves. I started to find out, okay, what are the root causes of this? And so Teenage Girls in Transition started with just want to talk to them. Let's meet after school and let's talk about what's going on. And then they begin to open up because no one ever asked them. What's the issue? What's the problem? Most of them were dealing with things at home. Most of them had low self-esteem. So what I've done with a few teachers after they helped me out with it is that we begin to have career day. We brought in different African-American leaders from different places all over, friends of mine, to come in and talk to them. Then we had workshops for self-esteem. We started, I know Ms. Skinner helped with the makeup and
Mrs. Skinner?
Yes, Ms. Skinner,
Right.
and actually how to dress up and how to look. So we had days that they would come dressed up to make them feel valued about themselves. And then we made a connection with, I think it was one at the high school, Teenage Girls Transition. It was Lady something that was at the high school, and we had an all-night thing. We spent the night at the high school, and we did activities around the clock. Just wanted them to feel good about themselves. We did arts and craft. We made T-shirts. We had poetry. We had popcorn. We had so much things going on. So there was teachers that allotted to stay with us from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Nice.
Then they had to go home to their parents.
Yeah,
so
that's
it
a
was
nice
really good.
dedication. Is that still happening, that program?
Yes, Ms. Bush is now doing. I think she calls it something different, but it started off as Teenage and Girls Transition. But I think they incorporated, so they have male and female now. I think the rites of passage is what
Right.
takes
Is there something
place.
for the young men as well, the boys?
Yes, rites of passage for both.
For both of them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's important because a lot of these kids, they don't have that.
Right.
Yeah, that's all the same. It looks like you are definitely doing it. So what made you go into administration? Because a lot of teachers don't want to deal with the minutia and of administration.
I was comfortable in the classroom. So I told you about that mentor I had when I was in college. When I got the full academic scholarship, Trenton State at the time, now the College of New Jersey, they assigned a mentor for you. Coming out of North New Jersey, it was a cultural shock to me. I didn't realize there was that many Caucasian people in the world. Because I grew up in Newark West Side High School. I think I had two Hispanic in my classroom, no whites at all. Few teachers that were white. So it was a cultural shock, and I never knew what a college campus looked like coming out of Newark. I didn't know how to handle it. So they assigned us a mentor. And my mentor, Dr. Gloria Dickinson, God rest her soul, she took me through that whole 4-year process, and I had to stay up there during the summer to work as well. And she said to me when I became a teacher, and she was following my life, and to be candid, some of my high school teachers I still have in my life today. I go visit them and have a good time. I took one to Ocean City, Maryland, because she'd never been before, so I've taken. So those that have given to me, I've always given back to them as well.
Right.
So Dr. Gloria Dickinson said to me in my 7th or 8th year, she said, "Said, I need you to do something for me." I'm like, okay, what is that? She said, "I need you to do 2 things, 1 or 2 things." I said, "What's that?" She said, "Either you're going to go to seminary or you're going to go to grad school." And I was like, "Why?" She said, "Because you have more potential, and I don't want you to just stay in the classroom. You have potential to make a bigger impact if you go into another arena." She said,
Okay.
"But you select which one." So I'm fussing in my own, how's she going to tell me what to do? But she had that kind of
happy and comfortable and safe in my classroom.
My good right here. But so I did. And she said, "And I want you to list the pros and cons of each." So I did. I applied to Princeton Seminary. I got accepted. And I was going to go to Wilmington College. I think that's where everyone was going at the time. It was Wilmington College. And I told those were the 2 I had on my list. And I said the cons about Princeton Seminary is I had to live on campus, and I would have to uproot my children. And I had a dog, and I just bought a house here in Salem. I said, and then I have to rent out the house. I don't know who that is. And I said, my kids got to come out of the school, and I got to go into another area that I'm not familiar with. I have no babysitters there. I don't know anybody in Princeton. I said, that's not my hometown.
Right.
I said, I'm just getting adjusted here. I do have a church family here. At least they do watch my kids if I go to grad school. And so I told her Wilmington College, and I'm not putting any shade on anyone, but she told me, you're not going there. She said, people that go to Wilmington, I'm just quoting her, people that go to Wilmington College want a pay raise. You want an education. So she called the dean at the College of New Jersey, Dr. Donald Leak, I'll never forget it, College of Education, and said she needs to get into the school in your immersion program for school leadership. And thus, that's what happened. I took the GRE, got in, and the rest is history. So it was a 2.5-year process that I'm immersing. So I took
That's
that
an amazing
program.
story.
Yes, and that's why I became an administrator. And midway through, I was maybe 2 months away, and at the time, the superintendent then, Peggy Nicolosi, came to me in my classroom and said, we need a vice principal down at the elementary school, because they were going through the dynamics, and this is the part you talk about diversity. We had, at the time, like 97% African-American kids, but there were no African-American teachers but one. And there was no ever an administrator that was of color in the school. So she said, state said that they have to have some kind of balance. So as other would say, they put you down there because you were the black one. But you got to have credentials. But, I took that opportunity.
Right.
If I am the one, okay, fine.
You're going to take it and run with it.
Exactly. So she offered me to go down, and I've gone down for a year there. And then at the time, one of the middle school vice principals left, and then I was transferred back to the middle school and became a vice principal there. And then the shift of different superintendent, I was actually going, when the other principal retired from Fenwick, I was hired there as a principal.
So basically, it's to make the larger impact. You
Yes.
can impact 25, 30 students in your classroom. Now you're impacting hundreds of students
Exactly.
annually.
Exactly.
What does that impact look like? What kind of initiatives have you started, or what successes have you seen? And either test scores, attendance,
Yeah.
school culture.
Yeah. The first thing that changed was the culture. That was the greatest impact when I became the principal at Fenwick Academy. It was to a point that it made an impact to the students, even though they were young at the time. They had not seen any African American in leadership position, because at the time they were either paraprofessionals or custodians, and maybe 1 or 2 in the classroom, and one had just passed. So it was just one, and the other one retired. So what happened after that was the kids would come in my office, or they would see me walk through the hallway, and I had a walkie-talkie that I was security. So and the teachers
They
wouldn't tell them.
still didn't get it.
No, and the teachers didn't tell them. So I was dealing with that dynamic as well. So the cultural shift happened my first 2 years. 33 people left, and it seemed to be a bad decision. So the board was saying, why are these people leaving? What did you do? Like, okay, I did something huge, bad, and I said all I did was raise the expectations in reading. And some of the teachers said to me, how are you going to raise expectations for these kids and they can't even meet them at this level? So what makes you think they're going to meet it at this level? I said, because everything tells me when you move the bar to higher, kids get that. And I gave them, an example of it. And the board asked me, good teachers leaving, and I asked them, what do you consider good teachers? They said people that have been here for a long time. I said, well, I don't equate that longevity to effectiveness. Right. I said, because when I raise the expectation and I have a different group of teachers, our kids are doing better. That first year, they went from 35% to 65% reading on level. So tell me that's not good. Right. So when I started to show them stats of what the kids were doing, it was just bringing them up to a different level. They left me alone. They said, okay, we're gonna let that go.
Just because you've been doing it longer doesn't mean you're doing it better.
Correct. So 33 people left, but the great thing about that, I was able to bring in different groups of teachers that would come in.
And more diverse.
And with diverse. And that was the first time they've seen that much. My goal was to make sure that our kids saw at least one African-American teacher or male, because there was not many males in there as well, right. At least in each grade level. So now they have a face equated to, okay, education, or I can become, or I can see what I can be. Right. Because my daughters went through the whole school and did not have any African-American teachers, right. except for me. Right. I taught the 8th grade. Okay. My daughter that's a doctor, I was her only teacher that was color.
Right. So how can you really develop those role models?
Correct.
To somebody who has the same cultural experience.
Exactly.
So talk to me a little bit about the state of education here in Salem today.
One of the things, and this is not only just Salem, but one of the things that we're working with now is chronic absenteeism. Mm-hmm. That's huge, especially at the level that I'm at, pre-K to 2. I can speak to that because I'm in it every day, is that our kids totally depend on their parents to bring them to school.
Because this is a no bus?
No bus except for our special needs students, okay. because of the 2-mile radius. Right. And of course, there's no funding for any city
for courtesy buses.
Correct. Not at this small town. Mm-hmm. So the weather and the climates. The state said you still have to have a certain amount of kids, at least lower than 18%, and we're in the 30s. We're constantly doing some changes there. So we've done some things, incentive programs, contacting parents, getting out on the street, have an attendance officer calling, our counselors calling, social workers calling, and telling the parents the importance of attendance. I'm showing them stats of what kids do when they're in school. Right. Our reading levels have gone up for those kids that at least we have for 2 years. So let them see that if you put them before our teachers, they'll learn something. If you bring them to school, they'll learn something. But because of the snow, the rain, right. the distance, childcare, shift work, it's a lot. It's a lot of things we can't change.
Now, you've added some incentives.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
The incentives is we know our community like food.
What community does not like food?
Right. That's some community care less about
food,
it.
And that's how,
so that's how we bring
programs,
them in.
Food.
We bring them in with food for the parents. We said we're going to feed them. We had a breakfast for them, attendance breakfast for those kids that had good attendance. Mm-hmm. We brought them in, gave them gifts, baskets, bikes, the kids. So it was really exciting. Right. And so each time it gets better and better. So we want them to come in. The caveat to that is we bring you in, you got to hear what we got to say. And then we give them the stats when it has to do with the attendance and where they are. And hopefully they'll take that back to their friends. Hopefully, and they go back and tell us, oh, Miss Carter's giving out some good food. Y'all need to come over there. Right. So, but then they say, well, how did you get invited? And then they could tell them we got invited because my kids come to school. Right. Like if you want your kids involved, just bring them to school. So that has helped. And it helped those days and kids. And then not only are we have incentive for parents, we have them also for students. We had a bowling party in Woodstown. We have another cookout session for the kids. We had them a glow party. We had them to come to with hot chocolate and cookies, and we gave them out Christmas gifts that was donated, I think, by United Way. We had so much in there. We give out all kinds of things, and also we give kids raincoats, umbrellas, coats, hats, anything that helps with getting them to school. Mm-hmm. If we hear the parents say, well, they don't have a raincoat, they have boots, we supply all of that. We have uniforms in our closet, so we become what our kids need us to be to educate the whole child. Not every community say they can do that, but we've learned to do that, especially at Fenwick Academy. I've done it when I was at the middle school. I've had things in my closet, in my drawer. Just take it out and just give it to the kids. Right. Somebody did it for me. My teachers dressed me for my prom. Right. They took me out. They didn't have to do that. They did that.
Out of their pockets.
Out of their pockets. Yeah. Absolutely.
What else? Scores?
Test scores. We're not a testing school. Pre-K to 2 is not. Right. 3rd through 8 is. So what we are responsible for is making sure our kids are reading on level. This is one of my goals, and Palmer practice have been since I become the principal there, is that at least 85 to 90% of our students leaving second grade on or above reading level. So we came close to it 2 years ago
Uh-huh.
at 89%. We came to 89%, but I want to show you how we did that. Is because what we've done, and this is one of the things I want to show the board as well as the parents, if your kids come, and we had them at least for 2 years, at least 2 years, then I use those scores of the kids we had for 2 years. For those that that didn't sit in front of my teachers for the whole year, we did not count them. So we had 89% of the students that we've had for 2 years
Right.
to be reading on above level.
Right, so it shows the importance of just showing up, being
Exactly,
there.
showing
And
up.
if you can't teach a kid who's not there,
Exactly, and I show them that if you just bring them, they will grow.
they will grow. So the growth is there. Unfortunately, the absenteeism
Correct.
puts that back in there. Out of your you said 33 years of teaching. How different are kids today than, let's say, 25 years ago? They have up this with social media, with influencers.
Yeah.
Back 20 years ago, they were saying that students should not have more than like 2 hours of screen time a day.
Right.
Now, you're having screen time
Every
6+
day.
hours a day just in school.
Yeah. The shift that's happened is as an educator, if we're not constantly reading and keeping up, then we become stuck. One thing I did not want to do is I don't want to treat the kids that I have now the way I treat their parents 25 years ago.
So you're a generational
I
teacher.
have to. I have to know what the trends are. I know we're dealing with a digital student. I know that some kids can't function without the iPad. So how do I incorporate that in their learning?
Right.
How do we give those kids that can't sit still an iPad? And all our kids do have iPads from pre-K and K. They have them in classroom. But we want to make it educational. So let's make it a game. Some kids want it more than others. If it's not part of their IEP, if it's not part of their plan, we got to figure out how we're going to do that. How do we make this fun? So we make them do research on it. We have the Promethean boards in all the classrooms. So this group, they don't know to go to the library as other kids knew how to go to the library and find things. This is a Google, let's Google it. That was the biggest thing back then. But now they get just AI, right? So they can pull up anything they want. Kids can, I have a grandson that's 3 years old. He can go through a computer and find out how to find a YouTube. I'm looking at this kid like, you got to be kidding. But I have to realize he was born with this.
Yeah.
So this is his book. Whereas we literally have books.
Right.
So the games are different. So it depends on how you monitor it. But there's still hope for this group. We just got to handle it differently than we did 25 years ago.
Right. Did you see a difference because I read a lot about during COVID-19, and there's this lack of either maturity or advancement because of that COVID-19 bump. Are you seeing that?
Absolutely. We're dealing with that group now.
Yeah.
The social is not there. So they don't know how to. It's important when kids are told to come to school at 3 and 4 years old, there's a purpose behind it. And that's one of the things I'm trying to get the parents to understand. Even though it's not recommended or mandatory, I won't say recommended, mandatory that they come to school until they're 5 or 6, really 6 to start counting at 6. But it is important that they start early. That's why early intervention happens. That's why the preschool money and funding is there for districts that are poverty stricken, because the kids already come in behind academically, verbally, speech, or anything. So if we would put, this in place and the kids come on time or come at a regular time, it'd be helpful to our parents to know that kids can do better. It's different. It's very different. But if we could get the young people in earlier and the parents understand, I think we could do a better job at that.
Have them a little bit longer.
Yes.
And working with them. So how do you inspire the teachers then to see your point of view towards your philosophy and approaching the students?
I start with stories. Every year I start with a story about why I do what I do. I talk about my teachers that I share with you when I grew up. I talk about my trauma at a young age. I talk about how I can relate to the students here. I tell them how well our kids depend upon them. I tell them about a story. Every year I have a story about a kid. Right. I have a situation that I can tell them a story about, and they're like, oh. So storytelling, constantly showing them data, build relationships, find them where they are, talk about their families, how they connect, how they can connect with the kids, and constantly encouraging them and giving them the resources they need. Because over time, if we don't constantly give the teachers what they need, they can burn out. Because in Salem, it's difficult. The barriers here, the lack that's here, it may be in other places, but there are more resources in other places where there are not resources here in Salem. So you have Camden and Newark. They deal with poverty, violence, and trauma, but they have resources.
A lot more resources, a lot more funding.
A lot more funding. Like with my children, I was able to take my children to Barnes and Noble and tell them to pick out a book. Our parents don't do that. So what I have to do is I have to give them the books so they can build their own personal library. So I remind the teachers that we are part of their family. So we're an extended part of their family. So when we go home, we said we could take our kids to Barnes and Noble, take them to Kumon, take them to learning centers. Their learning centers are us.
Right.
That's their learning centers are us.
Do you get buy-in?
I'm sorry?
Do you get buy-in from the teachers?
Oh, absolutely. And we get teachers to donate. We get teachers to bring in things that if their children are not reading the book, they bring that in. We have a teacher now that has a therapy dog that comes in. So they understand the environment. So let's bring everything that they can. Let's expose them to a world that they see not in Salem. Because if they stay in Salem, they don't see anything outside.
Right.
I didn't realize I was closed when I was in Newark until I went to college. So how many of our kids would get an opportunity to expand their thinking outside of Salem? If Salem is all into them, it's not going anywhere. So how do I bring all of what the world has to offer them in a small town that has nothing? It's in education. So my teachers got to do it through books, the internet, research, and let them know there's a bigger world. And then use the Promethean board to communicate with kids all over the world. That's key. Because exposure, I don't know what I'm going to become if I can't see it.
Yeah.
I did that with my kids here. When they lived in Salem, I told them, we're going to go visit some of my friends in Pennsylvania. We're going to go to North Carolina. We're going to go to South Carolina. But I had the means to do that.
Right.
I wanted to show them different lifestyles. I wanted to show them different college campuses.
Yeah.
And that's what we do here with our kids. But it has to be on a continuum. You can't just stop. Because when you expose them to more, then I can become that if they don't see it. So assemblies that I bring in, you could be that. You see the arts, you can be that. You can be that next dancer. You can be that next singer. And it's not, give them a variety of what they can become. That's what I wanted to bring the kids exposure.
What do you think are some of the biggest challenges facing kids today?
Trauma, poverty, and I don't think they realize that they are impoverished.
Yeah,
because it's their life.
I have a quick story. I had a student who, in Camden, I taught in Camden for 24 years, and she went on a trip to Maine with a program. And she came back, and she goes, Mr. Johnson, you know what I saw that I never saw before? What? Stars. She goes, I never saw so many stars, because living in Camden, the light pollution, you see one, two.
Every now and then.
She was just like, I had no idea. I mean, yeah, I've seen pictures, but I had no idea. So I think that gets to what you're saying. They don't even realize, but yet they have it. So what do we do about that?
Exposure.
Yeah.
Exposure. Somebody did it for me. My teachers took me out of my norm, out of my setting, and exposed me to other things. So that's what I'm doing. I've done that when I coach basketball. I remember Vivian Stringer when we won a role and we were winning pretty good. And I asked her, I said, can I bring my kids? My students up here just to sit at one of your games. She said, absolutely. She said, give me the date and I'll make sure you get in. So all we had to do was get a bus, and she got us tickets, and we got the exposure. So kids like, oh my God, they're at Rutgers University now, they're watching another girls' basketball game. So those small things, teaching them how to dress, how to walk, care about themselves, hygiene, anything to make them feel important.
Right. So let's talk a little bit more about your church, Deliverance. We talked about how you shared your thoughts of how you came to ministry. What are you seeing generationally again? Are people losing faith?
A certain generation is. I don't think I would go this way. Baby boomers and Gen X, I think they're still in church. Z and millennials, mm, maybe if their parents are still pushing it.
Right.
But I think church is redefined in a place that is not in four walls anymore. I think people are saying that the church is in them, whereas before it was a place that everybody went to. Families went to every Easter. Every year Easter's not as full as it used to be. Palm Sunday, Christmas, those are not the holidays people go to church anymore. They're relaxing at home or they're watching because of the pandemic. People now scrolling through Facebook. You can get church online.
Yeah.
And people are satisfied with it.
Right.
And it's a variety. Whereas before, you go to the church your parent wants you to go to. You go to the church your family's always gone to. But now you can scroll through whatever you want to watch, you got now.
Right.
So it is a different look.
So how do you reach those generations, the
You
millennials?
do by using who you have, or you get involved in social media as well.
Okay. Meet them where they are.
You meet them where they are, and meet them there. You say, appeal to them, and don't have the long services. Don't have the long drawn out.
Long 2 hours, 2.5 hour
No, we don't do it
services.
now. We in and out. There's in and out.
Pastor started talking an hour and a
yeah,
half ago.
that's too much. So the sermons with between 15 and 20 minutes. I want to make sure I get in and get out.
Right.
But do things that will bring them in. Also include them in worship.
Right.
And include them in what they would like to be done.
How do you deal with somebody who's losing faith or struggling in a faith?
Just have a conversation to them and let them just go. I do talk to people that have lost faith and hope, and I just listen to them. Don't condemn them, just listen to them. Most importantly, I just live in front of them, live the life.
Yeah.
Just live the life.
That doesn't sound much different from what you do in the school as
That's
well.
it.
When you have a trauma and
Mm-hmm.
feeling hopeless.
Mm-hmm. Live the life.
Just live the life. Listen to them.
I bring happiness. I smile. I tell everybody I wore happiness today, and I constantly, deliberately smile every day, even when things are not good. I pull people aside. I've had teachers go through some horrible things in family news. I just grab them. Don't say a word because I don't know what to say. Grab them, and then also give them that opportunity. Just leave. We'll take care of the class. No explanations. Let's go. Mom, dad, husband, wife, children, whatever it is that it is, your partner, whatever, go, we got you. So when they see that, that gives them hope, even if they losing faith. It says somebody still care.
They need some mental health, self-care,
Mm-hmm.
and you offer that.
Mm-hmm.
You support the self-care.
And if I can't get it to them, I make sure I give them resources so they can have it, or send them somebody that can help them. They will not be out there by themselves, I'm telling you.
What do you do for self-care?
I work out. I also, I just sit still and pray. I have a prayer room, and I just sit in there sometimes, listen to music.
Right. You find that helpful?
Very helpful.
Right.
Sometimes I just get quiet. Right now, believe it or not, this doctoral program has spent a lot of my time on my self-care. But for the most part, I do have a trainer. I have a personal trainer.
Okay. How often do you work out?
Well, right now, I used to work out twice a week, but she's going back and forth to Atlanta to take care of her mother. So I do it at least. She told me to do some things on my own.
Right.
So I would meet with her maybe
Which is never
twice
the
a month.
same.
It's never the same.
You
About
don't
twice a
push
month.
yourself as hard as a
Nah,
trainer.
and I have my husband we have a home gym at the house, so he did give me a cycle, so I do some.
And
things
he probably
that-
can't push you the same way.
No. Yeah, and I wouldn't let him. He can't do it. He aggravates me to the point like, but at least twice a month when she's not taking care of her mother, she'll call me and say I'm in town, and I would just go visit her.
That's right. Now, so tell me some other work that you've done. I know you were part of NAACP
Yes.
Salem branch. Are you still involved with that?
Not the Salem branch, but the national.
The
But-
national branch.
But
Okay.
I do know, the president here,
Okay.
and whatever they need, I will
What's some
help
of the
them.
work you've done?
I just sat in meetings. I've supported the work. I supported the events they have, like the dinners and things and the luncheons and that. There was a time that I sat on it when they were trying to make a change with some things in school because of the interfacing of not too many African American teachers coming in. So I was able
Right.
to be inspirational on that, to be a voice to see how it comes and how can we recruit more. What are the schools? Because sometimes they said, well, at the time they said they couldn't find any African Americans to come. I said, so how are you soliciting them? How are you going out? How are you searching for them? So
Right.
that was some of the things I had to help in that area to bring some enlightenment to this area.
Right. How do you communicate with the larger community, either through with your school role or your ministry role?
I do it by, I get invitations to various places to speak. I do that, but most of the part, I'm just a visible person.
Right.
Doing in this community, I'll stop by Pat's Welcome. I'll stop by Parker's. I'll stop by the barber shop, Nellie's, of course, Pastor Sanita. Just stop by and speak to. I speak to everybody. Go in different places to speak and just start to people, especially in this area in Salem. Then I'm very inspirational in helping people in Bridgeton, Vineland, and Millville because of ministry. It expands. Then in the Gloucester County, then in Glassboro, and then Deptford and Woodbury. It's because the name goes out there because somebody heard you online. Somebody heard me speak. And just being visible, helping people. That's what I do. But I don't look for accolades. I just do it. It's like breathing to me. If somebody's in help, need, I'm there.
How would you like to be remembered? What legacy do you want to leave here in Salem?
I thought about that. The legacy I would like to leave is that I was an advocate for kids, extremely kids. I like adults, but I love kids. That I did as much as I could to make sure they had what they needed. So my legacy is to make sure the whole child was taken care of while they were in my care. And my goal now, and I've shared this, I've been honest with my staff as well. I said, I need to find the next person, and I believe I found that person, that I know when I leave here, they will continue to do or build on what I've started.
That vision. Because
I don't want it to go back the way it was. They worked too hard. When I left the middle school, I never forget it. It's like the hate, like oh, I wish she was going. Like the kids, like, oh, she get on my nerve. And so when I was going, it's, oh, we want Miss Woods at the time. We want Miss Woods back. We want Miss Woods back. And I just remember walking by the building, and the same thing happened when I stopped coaching. I stopped going to basketball games because when I would go to basketball games, they would start chanting, "We want Miss Woods back," and I didn't want the coach to feel that they shouldn't be coaching because I left. Yes, we had a winning season. Yes, I had a rapport. Yes, they played well, but my time is up. So let me give that person an opportunity. So when I walk past the middle school, when I walk past the high school basketball games, I can go to basketball games now because most of them don't know me. So there's a whole new different coaching system there. But I always say that when I leave a place, I want to make a dent so well that when I'm gone, they would say, "Oh, that's what Miss Carter was. Oh, that's what Miss Woods was." I left a dent so hard in that office that I was in that the impact lingers even when I'm not there.
Very nice. And when retirement does come, what does it look like for you? A beach somewhere down south?
Nah. Mentor.
Yeah.
I want to mentor.
You'll keep working.
I will. Just on my own hours.
You'll keep passing it on.
Oh, absolutely.
Passing it forward, playing it forward.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah, that's my call. I'll do that until he call me home. I believe that. It just will be at a slower pace.
Right.
But I would definitely be involved some kind of way. But I want to mentor the next leaders. That's what I want to do.
Very good. Saida, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was really a pleasure talking with you. Very insightful in education here and your ministry and the value that you bring to a mission / ministry.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm Dean Johnson for Follow South Jersey. Thanks for watching Follow Salem podcast. Have a great day.